All right, welcome everyone. I'm going to introduce the presenters that we have today. I am lucky that both of them are my coworkers, and I love working with them here at the Hannah Grimes Center for Entrepreneurship. First, we have Ann Christensen, if you want to just give a little wave. She was born and raised in rural Minnesota, or as she would say, Minnesota. She received a bachelor's degree in communications from, can you say that, Marianne?
Gustavus Adolphus College.
In Minnesota. After college, she moved to New York and worked for J. Walter Thompson Advertising and Merrill Lynch. While she was there, she earned her master's degree in public administration from New York University. She moved to New Hampshire in 1991 and bought Buckminster Farm in Roxbury. Roxbury's population like 200 something.
238.
238. Everyone counts. She started a home-based soap making business and also gardens and raised sheep and chickens at her farm. Through her soap making, gardening, and farming contacts, she began to realize that there was a shortage of markets for locally made products from small scale businesses, while at the same time, there was a shortage of skills on the part of local producers to enter and succeed in those markets. So she started the Hannah Grimes Marketplace in 1997 to create a thriving marketplace for local products and to help people who make those products build sustainable and successful businesses, and added the Hannah Grimes Center for Entrepreneurship in 2006 to support the successful startup and growth of local small businesses. And I'm now going to introduce Sarah Powell. If you'd like to give a little wave, Sarah. Sarah was born and raised in the Catskill Mountains of New York State. After receiving her BS in environmental science from University of Vermont, she has spent her time working for mission-driven and place-based organizations as a farmer and educator. Sarah has been living in the Monadnock region since 2013, a graduate of Antioch University, New England. She holds a master's degree in environmental studies with a concentration in environmental education. With a penchant for systems thinking and facilitative leadership, she enjoys working with folks in her community to grow and strengthen local resiliency through place-based initiatives. As the program director at Hannah Grimes, she's responsible for managing the Business Incubator program and developing the organization's workshops, seminars, and projects that support entrepreneurs and business owners in the region. Sarah also serves on the board of the Cheshire County Conservation District as an associate supervisor. Woo! Nice job, everybody. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Marianne.
Great. Thank you, Juliana. And it's nice to see so many familiar faces, and it's really nice to see some brand new ones too. I guess I just got highlighted. Did I clean my kitchen before I did this? I just wanted to give a little bit of background. In 2016, actually early in 2016, I read an article about the fate of rural communities. It was written by Jim Tankersley. It was the Washington Post. I think, does somebody have their volume that they can turn off? Whatever I think I'm getting some noise.
I'll mute some folks.
Yep, thanks. So it talked about how the rate of entrepreneurship in rural areas had just fallen off a cliff. The rates nationally were already low, but specifically for rural communities, they were abysmal. And the other thing he noted was that after every successive recession, that the recovery increasingly favored urban areas and disfavored rural areas. So after each recession, the divide between urban and rural areas was greater. And, this was, I think in the recovery from the recession. So 2016, I was like, we just hadn't recovered. The country said everything was good. The economy was great, but that is not what we were all experiencing in our rural communities. And I think it was no coincidence that in 2018, we started Radically Rural. There was an increasing divide between outcomes for urban and rural. And the other thing he said in that article was that one of the primary causes for it was the lack of financing for startups in rural communities. And this struck a chord with me. That felt right, that there wasn't financing for the types of businesses that tend to start in rural communities and the ways that they tend to grow. So that was kind of what prompted us to get going. And we decided to start this pitch program. So in the fall of 2016, we started Pitchfork. And the idea was to bring together all sorts of investment locally into our communities. Like, how could we increase? There are local dollars in any rural community. How do we start getting those into our local entrepreneurs? And by building those relationships too, I think create other things that would strengthen those small businesses by having more involvement. So we wanted to expand access to capital. We had this vision of having these events that were community-based, that were enjoyable, fun, that would give more visibility also to the startup activity in a region. So it becomes an event, an activity to go out and hear about the businesses that are starting or growing. And then we also realized that a lot of our businesses that might be able to participate in some of the more classic pitch events that are more Shark Tanky, that they didn't have the resources locally to prepare for that. And so another thing we wanted to do was just to increase our capacity to help our businesses learn how to pitch. So that's kind of the background and what we were hoping to do with it. Two distinctive programs came out of that. The original was the Pitchfork event. We now call it Pitchfork Growth, but it really was, this is open for whatever, but we generally take 3 businesses and put them out in an evening, and they pitch, and there's an audience. It includes bankers, it includes individual investors, it includes people who have organizations that have revolving loan funds. Whoever in the room might have interest or have money to go into a business is there. That's a fairly simple event to run. You get these businesses, you do some practice and some coaching on their pitches, you develop their readiness to receive the funds, and you have an event. After that, for the first pitch, Radically Rural, actually, we did a Pitchfork challenge. So we got a $10,000 cash prize, and that becomes a little more complicated. You have judges. We had elimination rounds, a little more complex, but it also creates, I think, programmatically for the entrepreneurs that participate, a couple of things. One is, like, they really do become a cohort, because as they're going through it with this team that is smaller and smaller, but it is a team, they do develop some close relationships. I think that's helpful. They develop a closer relationship, I think, with Hannah Grimes while they're doing that as well. And it tends to be a bigger event with more people attending and a little more splash. So for all of them, it's even more exposure as they're going out. One thing that we've heard from all of the businesses, whether it's Pitchfork Growth or the Pitchfork Challenge, is that that exposure to an audience is super valuable. So those are the 2 things, and Sarah will be covering more in detail that does, but keep it in the guide that you got. And just so you know, that's a PDF. It was easier to get out, but we can give that to you in a Word version too. So if you do want to take it and make it your own at some point, we can do that. But there are the 2 different things, and they're quite distinct in how they're run. Some lessons that we've learned in doing this is that pitching is probably one of the most powerful things that a business can do. We have since incorporated it into, we have a business lab, a 7-week accelerator type program. That is the final event for that. We've incorporated into a once-a-year pitch from our incubator businesses to our board. And we've added some other programs, and they all have a pitch element. It was stunning to see how powerful it is to watch a business go through a process of presenting their own business. Often they don't, what they learn along the way sometimes is what a customer values is different from what they think they're offering. There's such a highlight, and then also being able to just quickly and succinctly and with a sticky message get across what it is they do. So it's a really powerful process. And, I think having that public thing at the end really does motivate them to work hard on this aspect of their business as well. But a pitch brings together kind of a lot of aspects of your business very elegantly, and it just is a great opportunity. So that's one thing we've learned is how powerful an experience that is. Very, I think, changing for the entrepreneurs that go through it. The other one is the one lesson we learned along the way is we get pitches already. They were great. We got the audience. They were ready. It was great. And then if there was interest in the pitch, we hadn't thought through fully, was the entrepreneur ready to take on that debt or that equity, whatever the case would be? Did they have the forms ready to go? Were they ready to talk the next day with people? So we've worked hard at really sharpening that. And we have a partner with that. For us, it's in New Hampshire, an organization that has revolving loan funds. So they do a lot of the underwriting work with people now before we put them through a Pitchfork growth and make sure they have the forms ready. They know how they're going to spend the money and stuff like that. And then the other piece that's important is really just cultivating the community, making sure that people are there and providing the type of support that's needed. Really important. This is a very flexible program, and you can use it for startups. You could use it if you want to rev up your Main Street or something. You could run one for Main Street businesses to try to get Main Street businesses started. If you want tech businesses, you could run one for that. Ours have tended to be general. We like to represent all the types of businesses that are growing in our community, but you really could, use this very pointedly to achieve some goals in your community. Is it companies that produce jobs? Is it, companies that are selling in the community, companies that are explicitly selling outside of the community? Could be used to help farms. So just, really thinking about what are your goals? One goal we added kind of a couple of years in is, does the company have community benefit? So, one thing we're going to have at the end is an opportunity for somebody to win a ticket to Radically Rural. And we're going to ask you what 3 main goals you might have if you were to run something like this. I'm not quite sure how we've decided. Maybe we'll let the audience judge. Maybe it's Juliana, but so start thinking now about what would you, what do you need to accomplish in your community, and how could you use this as a tool to do that? So I think that's it for me. I'll pass it over to Sarah for more specifics about how it runs. Again, you have the guide. So really, I'll stress it. Sarah probably will too. Read it all the way through before thinking about questions, because it is very blow by blow and very detailed. And I think by the time you finish, you'll have a pretty clear picture. So Sarah, I'll put it over to you, and hopefully we'll have lots of time for discussion.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming today. My name is Sarah Powell. I'm the program director here at Hannah Grimes, and I have the great pleasure of working with the businesses that participate in our Pitchfork programs, which is one of the best parts of my year. Like Mary Ann said, it's really, really rewarding and very fun to watch them kind of shape and hone their message, kind of where they come in and what they say about their business and where they end up on their final pitch is really transformative. So I'd love to just share with you a little bit more about the overview, what you can find in the guide, and sort of some best practices that we've learned with working with participants along the way. So Mary Ann talked about the goals. I think it's really important. I'll just reiterate to just really understand like why you might want to have a pitch event in your community. Be really clear on that, because then when you're onboarding potential pitchers or businesses to participate in the program, you can have some really good clarity to share with them so that they, they're kind of on board and the vision is really clear. What you'll find in the guide is, some overview of a Pitchfork event. So what we call Pitchfork growth here at Hannah Grimes, but really that's, an opportunity to get a group of people together to pitch to a room of community members and potential investors. We really, as Mary Ann said, use that as a way to sort of, as a tool that we like to keep growing in our community to get folks excited for local investment opportunities. And I think we're just starting to get there, and it's really exciting as a mechanism for that. So Pitchfork growth, it could be also a way to generate some ideas. Maybe there's something specific in your community that's going on, and you just want to get people together in a really fun way to pitch ideas. And so with Pitchfork, in the guide, you'll see there's some overview of planning and preparation. So really just like how much time ahead of time, kind of what are the groundwork what is the groundwork that you want to lay within your organization or your community to kind of get ready to launch an event like this. And then there's another section that's about the logistics and the staging and sort of the general content. And again, like we offer kind of our process and our learnings as a template, which can be revised and tweaked and changed over time. So you can find those, all the different logistics laid out in there. And then for the Pitchfork Challenge, like Mary Ann was saying, that's our event that we have money, a prize, and that's a more intensive program. And that's where folks, we have an application, which we have an example of that in the appendices of the guide. So you can kind of see what kind of questions we ask people. And the way we frame applications here at Hannah Grimes is kind of that first step to the program itself. It's getting the business to really be thinking about, what their goals are, what maybe some of their next steps are, giving us a really good overview of, what it is they do, who's on their team, sort of the things that you would hear or see in a business plan. So it's actually really helpful for some folks that maybe haven't gotten that formalized. They can kind of go through this application process, really get things laid out. It gives us a sense of what stage of business that they're in, so that when we're selecting applicants, we can really get a nice set of folks that are ready for this opportunity. Pitchfork Challenge is it's time intensive because it is a program where we start early. So say we have our Pitchfork Challenge in September and we start early with a group of folks. We always have an information session. So even before we start accepting applications, just so folks can like meet the team, understand what the program is, what they can expect. It is a time commitment. And, once we've accepted applicants, then we have a round of, how do you create a pitch? We just kind of give them some resources, talk through what are sort of the best practices and guidelines. What do we expect in a pitch? And then there's lots of pitch practice that happens between, the onboarding and then the first round where they give their a closed round pitch to a panel of judges. You'll see in the guide that some of the best practices are like, how many judges do you have? And we found that 5 is a good number, an odd number, definitely, because you'll see when you get to the deliberation, it's nice to have an odd number in case there's some split about who wants, who's got strong feelings about one person or another. And it is, really fun to see the transformation. And Mary Ann talked about this too, that the program Pitchfork Challenge is the foundation of that is the cohort. The pitch practicing, we try to arrange so that folks can be together so that they can hear each other's pitches, hear the growth of the pitches, really understand each other's businesses. And it becomes this collaborative environment versus just a strictly competitive environment. And you'll see, like, by the end, what we always find is that they're really celebrating each other. You know, of course they want to win the $10,000, but they're really excited to see, you know, the journey as everyone's journey unfolds with their pitch. Another thing that I would mention too is in the guide, you'll find, you know, we've figured out some standards for how we, you know, judging criteria. And Marianne mentioned, you know, one of those things is community benefit, you know, another one is traction. We really just want to have some criteria, and we have a little grid and matrix so that to support our judges in making that final decision. It's not just, you know, pitch performance is one of the things, but you can really, you know, measure and then have a conversation about who can win. The other thing that we've decided, and we find works well, because we want this to be a supportive environment for folks to really learn pitching, have this collaborative kind of business advice as well. So we work with the judges for 3 rounds. So the judges hear the pitches multiple times and get to offer feedback to the participants. And, you know, that could be a decision that you change in your own pitch, but we find that it becomes a really nice opportunity for each business to not only, you know, really understand, you know, what message that they're working on sharing with the community, but they also get to really build and grow their network by like having this building relationships with our panel of judges. And then those judges are also like really excited and celebrate everybody all the way through the process. I think the other thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, like there's a whole set of resources in here that we've put in, you know, example emails. So if you're like, oh, I really want to reach out to these 5 people to see if they want to judge, you can share a little bit about what you're working on. And, you know, here's some things you might want to share with them in that email. So all of this to say that there's tools in there that you can tweak. The process is laid out. And again, Marianne also mentioned, you know, just make sure if you're interested in doing this, like read it through, really get a sense of what it is that you want to do in your community. And then so that you can really get clear on what you're asking when you're inviting people to apply and what you're asking when you're inviting people to participate as judges. I'm trying to think, I have my notes. Let me just double check. See if I'm missing anybody. Oh, the other thing is when you're onboarding folks for the Pitchfork Challenge and Pitchfork Growth, you really want to make sure you frame out that this is a commitment and get that commitment up front. So make sure you have all your dates laid out of like when practices are going to happen and when the sessions are going to happen, like well in advance, because it is a cohort and we want everybody to be able to participate in the full program. It makes it easier for you too, as the wrangler of people and the administrator of the program, to just make sure you have the buy-in and everybody's on the same page. And, you know, I think it's can be a nice celebration in your community. What we've found and why we like to add it to our other programming, like this pitch element, is it really helps people share in the community, like what it is they do, who they are, why they do what they do, and how it really can impact the sort of entrepreneurial ecosystem. Plus, it's really fun to invite people to events like this in your community. They get to see like up and coming businesses, or, oh my gosh, I didn't even know so-and-so was working on that. Like it becomes this really beautiful celebration for folks to come out, support each other, hear what's new, what's upcoming. It's, you know, there's a lot of ways that we could focus on what's going wrong in our communities, but this is an amazing opportunity to say, hey, like there's some good energy here. People are doing stuff. And let's really celebrate and support them. So I really encourage you to take Pitchfork platform and make it your own and bring this to your own community. And, you know, we're really grateful to have had support to develop the guide and get it sort of out there so that people across the country can use it. You know, I'm available definitely to answer questions and, you know, support you. We'd love to see Pitchfork everywhere. So I see Patrick, there's someone on the call today who reached out. He lives in Maine and he's really looking to use Pitchfork, and I just can't wait to see how that unfolds and work with Patrick to get that off the ground. So I think that's all I had to just really give that overview, but what I'd love to do is bounce it back to Juliana and see where we're at for time and what's next. Mac, did I miss anything?
I think I think you got it. One thing, we might get to this later, but people may have questions about, so the guide is free, just want to be explicit about that. Pitchfork, if you've noticed, the logo and all that stuff is trademarked, but you're free to use that too. The only thing we'd ask is that you ask permission, because we'd like to know who's using it. And maybe share it in social media and stuff like that. But it looks kind of daunting because it's all trademarked and everything, but we just don't want it misused. And we do want to know if you're using it.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, Marianne, I meant to mention that. And I think our goal is, as it sort of gets a little momentum and people get excited to do this, is we can get a community of practice going. Like, we got a Pitchfork in Iowa, we got one in Maine, there's somebody in Florida doing it. And if we start kind of tagging and celebrating Pitchfork, we can really see who's doing what and learn together about how it's going and what impacts Pitchfork is having in your community.
And how you're marketing. Yeah, I think it would be wonderful to, get a community of practice going and get some momentum for the whole idea. So go ahead, Juliana.
Awesome. Thank you both. A couple things I'll add. One thing I'm excited about is, so far for the Hannah Grimes Center, our Pitchfork Challenge has been regional. But this year we are actually going national for our Pitchfork Challenge. So the final round will be taking place at the Radically Rural Summit, September 21st and 22nd this year. And so we are looking for applicants from anywhere. So that would be a really good opportunity. Let's say one of you on this call would like to have an up close and personal look at what the process is like. You could see if someone from your community may want to participate and be one of the pitchers this year. And you could kind of follow their journey along the way and then attend Radically Rural and see them pitch. And we're talking about even having an in-person roundtable right after the Pitchfork Challenge final round. And so, you could ask more questions after seeing the process. So that would be a really cool and fun hands-on way to get to know the process a little bit better. And so I will, in the follow-up email, I'll make sure to include the link to the Pitchfork application. So any business who meets the criteria and wants to apply can, because we are accepting applications from all over the US. And then I believe there's also, because we're not just regional now for this year, we also would welcome judges. So if anyone is interested in being a judge, I'll also have a link in there. It's just like a 2-question survey, basically, like your basic information, and then why do you think you'd be a good judge? So you can be creative with that, whether you're a business owner yourself or you work with small businesses. And we are going to be making the Pitchfork page on our website as comprehensive as possible so that folks can really have the best chance of success with this. So as we get questions that come into us, we'll start building a frequently asked questions section. We'll put videos on there for Pitchfork events or challenges that have gone on before. We'll really make it as comprehensive as we can. We are a really small staff at Hannah Grimes, so although we're totally happy to freely answer questions via email really quickly or things like that, we don't have a lot of time to do, consulting work. So if you need more intensive consulting work, we can talk about, how that would work, whether there'd be an hourly charge or something. But the goal of this is to provide it freely and as much as possible for you to be able to learn about it on your own and then run with it. So let's see. Let's go through my notes. Yes, that was it. So now I will open it up to discussion and questions, and then we can do the fun little breakout sessions for your 1-minute pitches. And when we do that, we will have a poll. If everything works properly, we'll have a poll for voting on who had the best pitch, and then anyone in that group will get free tickets to the Radically Rural Summit. So if, I'm just going to basically mute myself at this point. So anyone can jump in, questions, comments. If you're doing something similar in your own community and you want to talk about it, tell us about it. Tell us how it's working. And if no one else jumps in, I nominate Patrick Moore to tell us about why you want to do this in your community and what brought you here.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. Hi, everyone. I'm Patrick. I am the business relations manager for Main Street Skowhegan in Skowhegan, Maine. We recently opened the Skowhegan Center for Entrepreneurship. That was really born out of a business needs assessment. We spoke to over 135 local businesses in our community, figured out what they wanted, what they're looking for, and the center came out of that. So now I'm the only one operating the center and really trying to figure out how to do things, because there's no rule book for how to help businesses, and maybe there's some best practices, but the main goal is to create programming that can really get more exposure to our local business owners and help increase the amount of businesses in our town. And the one thing with our Main Street organization, we don't only focus on the Main Street and downtown. We've actually expanded our reach to encompass the entire town of Skowhegan. So exposure, bringing in more funding resources, and then really just getting more excitement for our community. We have a lot of great things happening right now. We've been working on creating a whitewater river park. We have a river running through our downtown. So we've had great news recently with $2 million from the federal government being earmarked to help advance our project. So there has been great excitement going on, but now our focus is again, helping our businesses and expanding on all of that. So we came across Pitchfork, and I thought it was a great idea and a great program, and I think it would really, really help us as well. So, and thank you for putting on this roundtable.
That's great. It's so nice to meet you, Patrick. I'm really excited for you to take Pitchfork. Hopefully you can launch it in Skowhegan. One thought I just had for the Whitewater Park, are you familiar with Franklin, New Hampshire? They actually they did that whole, okay, I'm sure you are. It's like, there's not that many examples of that, but they did a great job up there, so cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and Franklin, our executive director, she's taken on a hobby of paddle boarding and all those water sports. So she's traveled to Franklin and other whitewater parks as well. So it's we've seen some great development for those communities. So we're hoping to do the same with ours.
That's awesome. That's the name of the game for Radically Rural, is what models are working and can others replicate it? Because let's learn from each other and not all reinvent the wheel, All right. So who else would like to share or ask questions?
I'd also love to hear if anybody else has done like any kind of pitching events or pitch training or coaching in your community, and how that's kind of gone, and what you feel like the impacts have been for you. It's always nice to hear others' stories about that as well. We have one model, but I'm sure there's others. Oh, Natty, you raised your hand. Hello.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing. So often people don't see the hands being raised in Zoom. So I'm Natty Husty, Director of Business Acceleration at the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation in Brattleboro, Vermont. We oversee community programming and business development in the Windham County region, southeastern Vermont specifically. So for the past year now, we've done an annual business plan competition, which has a pitch component to it, but the focus really is the business plan. Where I see the benefit for the Pitchforks model is really the build up to the pitch itself, whereas we don't really have the capacity to assist all of the businesses that participate in the creation of the plan, as that is also part of the work that we do anyway. This business plan competition is really just kind of a way to stimulate interest on an annual basis to then get people really into the door so that we can provide them the technical assistance on a one-on-one basis. This year specifically, we have scheduled 4 lead-up events to our business plan competition pitch event. These we're calling quick pitches, where really applicants fill out an application, that general idea of what the business is, and then they have a few minutes to pitch their idea, at one of these quick pitch events. Then that application is vetted, and then they move on to the creation of the business plan, which then gets them into the actual pitch event where they are judged based on a metric, etc. Where I would like to see, eventually, is having some sort of professional capacity that can support these applicants as they move through this roughly 4-month process, from filling out the application to, final pitch event, assuming that they make it through each one of the successive rounds. So I see there's certainly a benefit here in the brief overview that I've had of this guide. I think that there's an opportunity of sharing best practices there. And I look forward to further cooperation.
No, there definitely is. And the pitch thing, we've gotten good at it, I think. And it takes practice. And, I think I don't recall how deep we go into it, but a lot of it is, giving permission. Like if you've got, when they're practicing, you've got 3 different people, you may have 3 distinct opinions about something. And we've encouraged our judges to disagree with each other. It's like, somebody might say, I don't think you should have that in there. And somebody else might say, that was the most interesting part to me. So we've kind of encouraged people, and then let the entrepreneur decide if they want it in or they don't want it in. But, making sure that there's room, once somebody said, oh, I love that part of your thing, and you were just ready to say, like, get that out of there, just making sure that that opportunity is in there for them. And always saying to the entrepreneur, this is your business. At the end of the day, you hope they're listening. You hope that they hear people. But it is their business. They have to feel comfortable. They have to feel like they're putting out what they think is good. And so really, making sure that that's good. And then, the common mistakes, they all like turn to the screen and start talking, and the audience is out there, and really just knowing that's going to happen like all the time, and really just trying to nip that in the bud. But it's been fun, doing it over the years, and feeling like you can develop a competency in it, and it doesn't take that long,
Yeah, it's pretty cool that it's just so much practice and just getting them to like say it out loud. So a lot, I definitely offer lots of support, but I think what the structure provides is just time for them to, it's like accountability. It's like, okay, we have pitch practice in 2 weeks, and they practice. It's kind of like there's a lot of administrative, like that's why we give the emails and stuff. It's like, how do you kind of walk someone through a process and keep them accountable to it, so that they can be successful, so that they can get to the end and feel like, wow, I've really made a lot of progress here, and I've had a lot of support, and they can feel really proud of their final pitch. I mean, we've never had anybody get up there and like bomb. Like it's always, they're nervous, but they do such a good job, because they're proud of their business, and they're really excited, and they've seen others feel really excited and be like, oh, that's really cool. Definitely put that in there. And it just helps build this momentum and this spirit of storytelling. We really focus on that. Marianne said, it's not Shark Tanky. It's like, there's no Mark Cuban here. Like what is your story? Like, why do you do what you do? Why does it matter to our community? How can you connect with your community and your customers, and, in a compelling and concise way? And it becomes this amazing tool that they always have in their back pocket. So,
And also, say too, like, oh, go ahead.
so much change. Very often, I would say the majority of the time, what people start with is completely not what they come back with. And you really do see their willingness to work. And I think especially where we have the judging panel, I think some people, I know judges have said, like, there's no way when we started this process did I think they were going to win. And they've seen this, can do, and all the changes and that willingness, you do see personality over time. And there's some people who have it all figured out the first time and they don't change it, and they do not come off well week after week after week. And you see somebody who really bombs the first time, but they hear and they get it. And so you really do see, and some people really got it right the first time and didn't have to make too many changes, but did make some. But there's a reforming for some of them many times, and it's a huge amount of work. So I think something Sarah said earlier about like making sure they know the commitment, it's going to pay off. But do you have the time? If you've got a wedding in the middle of this may not work. If, getting all of the judges and everybody together all at once, and it's a lot of work, but it's really, it really pays huge dividends. And the energy and the visibility that this creates in your community for this, starting a business is a lonely thing, and you're hiding all your mistakes and you think you're the only one that has them. And, this really just puts the community behind starting and growing your businesses. It's an amazing feeling in the room when everything's done. The buzz is amazing. It's pretty cool.
And I was just going to say, I think if you can keep it in-house, it's great, because it's great for like the center or the organization to learn this process and really be a part of the process with the entrepreneurs. But one thing we tried last year was we partnered with SBDC's Small Business Development Center, and they helped to do the pitch training piece of it. So I think if Natty or others are saying, we just don't have the bandwidth to do that piece of it, then that might be a good way to get it off the ground with some support. The only note there is, at least in our experience, it has to be state specific. So it couldn't have worked this year going national, but if you're keeping it specific to Maine or, Vermont or Iowa, wherever you are, then perhaps partnering with SBDC could be a good option, because they oftentimes already have pitch programs that they're running. So you could use the Pitchfork framework, but then get some support for the actual pitch coaching.
It's a great opportunity to collaborate. Like Pitchfork would be a great way to collaborate with your local chamber, or like you want to try to pull more people into the mix. It's definitely a really good tool for that as well. And just think about, the unique opportunity there.
As long as you really share core values, because, I think, there's some organizations that I don't think it would be good for us to partner with, because I think we view businesses differently, and what is a valuable business, and what do we want them to contribute to our community and stuff like that. So, you definitely need to make sure, I think, that you're sharing some values, or at least have crystal clear why you're doing this, who it's going to be for, like upfront, and get buy-in for that.
Awesome. We have about 4 minutes before we go into breakout rooms. Does anyone have any brief comments before we do that?
Or more questions?
Rachel Rowan, Kansas Department of Commerce, Office of Innovation. I do a lot with entrepreneurs. I start off with brand new startups all the time. I offer tax credits to startups who are trying to get investments. So we go through pitches quite often. We're looking to expand a lot of things. So we've added things like a proof of concept grant, utilized our IDA program to be able to get money into people's hands that may not necessarily have the money to get their business up and going. So I'm kind of just here listening to what this is and whether a partnership might work with this as we expand through Kansas. I used to do our rural opportunity zone, so I'm doing it up until July of this year. Then I'm going to hand that off and then stay just with innovation. So we have counties that have less than 2,000 people in them. Doing the outreach in some of those counties is really hard, and trying to get people to know that what they're doing is innovative can be really hard. Like sometimes you have a farmer who created this awesome thing. It works on John Deere tractors, but he doesn't know how to get that out to the market. Like he doesn't know that it's innovative. Do you guys have any experience looking or working with people in that realm that like maybe you're
You cut out right at the end. You said
Sorry.
maybe you what?
that they do have value, and that it is worth them putting in the effort to go through something like a pitch competition and getting a business plan ready, so that people see that they're really wanting to get this done. So just trying to get some feedback on how you reach out.
Definitely had that. And I think, I think that's the culture that you, environment that you cultivate, and who's welcome. And I think, I think part of having the opening session is, some people like, businesses like that don't think they're pitchers. And that's this whole culture has been put to replicable, scalable, saleable businesses and nothing else. And that's why we don't have funding in rural communities. So yeah, I think a lot of that is what, are you welcoming? Are you, pulling everybody into your community? We had, similar to that, we had a firefighter in a really rural town around here, Winchester, and he had developed, so apparently like once the fire trucks comes in, there's a huge effort to wash the undercarriage, because they're like $500,000 investments and they don't want to get dirty. And he developed this thing, very customized spray nozzles and stuff that attached to a regular hose that they could drive over a couple of times and you were done, as opposed to an hour of firefighters crawling around washing it. So exactly that kind of thing. And he pitched, and he was eloquent and wonderful. That's, making it accessible, it is scary for anybody. But, I think there are certain people that think that, they're not entrepreneurs. They might have this idea, that is, I think, culture, and making sure that everybody's valued, and, increasingly over time, you tell those stories, make sure people know that this is the place, you are the place to go for businesses like that. I think for Hannah Grimes, we started with a local products marketplace on Main Street. And so I think we've kind of had that friendly, welcoming thing that has continued as, as we've grown and the types of companies we work with has changed. But in a rural community, I think what we found is like, you cannot be specialized. You can't be high tech, or maybe even just farm. There aren't enough businesses, right? And so I think the value of, serving all of your businesses really with an open heart is the only way that a program can succeed and have enough density, I think, too, and I think it strengthens it because you've got this amazing diversity.
See, and we get a lot of outreach from like our Kansas City area, Wichita area, Topeka, but when it comes to Western Kansas, it's just crickets, no matter how much outreach we do. So that's why I was asking, because I want to see the people out there receive the same attention that Eastern Kansas is receiving, and let them know that it's there, that the opportunities are there. I help them. If they don't know how to do a pitch deck, I have something written out so they can just line up something and get something simple out there so they can help people understand what they're doing. So
I think too,
find something that's working and highlight it.
That's why I was here to see if I could find if you guys were working with something, because we've been.
No, but find a business find businesses of the type you're talking about that have done it. And
aren't any. Since 2006, I have been doing the research for the last 5 years. There's none out there.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
I think too, it's like it's a bigger culture of like people feeling like, oh, I just have to do this all by myself. And I have so many conversations with folks who are like that, come through the door. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. Like, we feel like we're doing like a lot of, we do a lot of outreach. Like, I didn't even know there was all these resources, because I usually try to connect them to the broader landscape of like, we do what we do, but there's other people that can help you too. And, and I think the folks that are, it's a cultural thing of like, it's okay. It's totally normal. Like, and it's like the best thing you can do is reach out for resources, build your network, get the word out, but it is tricky. So I hear you. Yeah, I don't know that we have anything else to offer, but just you're doing good work. It sounds like you really care about what you're doing. Yeah.
Right. My whole goal is my kids are going to grow up here, then I need them to know there's always opportunity, how little our towns are, how big our towns are. They don't have to leave.
And we do that. We believe that at Hannah Grimes. It's so fun to have a diversity of businesses. Like, all businesses matter, whether it's, the Main Street business or the solopreneur, like someone it's a retirement business, whatever it is, because it makes for great places to live. Like, if we have people in our community innovating and having businesses that, you can go get your massage, you can go to the yoga studio, you can have someone that's going to come train your dog or whatever it may be, it makes for a robust place to have a life. And so we see value in all the kinds, whether there's the person who knits the socks and the mittens at the marketplace, or someone that's got an app and they're going to sell that thing. It all has a place.
Well, I think that there's a lot of people on here who are perhaps scared of pitching because they've dropped off. So, and also just because of time, what we're going to do instead is I've just put everyone's names into a wheel, and we're just going to spin the wheel and see who gets the free ticket.
You are so clever.
Oh man, Juliana.
Oh. All right. Congratulations, Natty. For Rochelle, that was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for you, right? Because it was all hovering over you. Yeah. So Natty, I'll send you the code if you'd for a free ticket if you'd like to attend Radically Rural Summit this year in September for free. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to have everyone. So I will send a follow-up email to everyone, including the links to for if there's anyone who would want to pitch this year. If you or someone is interested in being a judge, as well as our Pitchfork page so that you can see all the resources we have. I'll also send the Word version of the guide so that you can customize it however you like. And we have 5 minutes. So Henry, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Sure. I'm kind of in a unique situation. I have an established studio and gallery, Main Street studio and gallery. But about 8 years ago, I started a not-for-profit called All River Road Talent, encompassing the Mississippi River Valley and the Driftless region, which was supposed to start out being a guided map 365 days a year. Actually, I did speak about this at the last convention. That suddenly has gone from a half a county map to representing about 1,700 square miles of the Driftless region now and 60 artists. I'm kind of on board just to hear, as this thing is picking up like wildfire, we've reached a point where people are coming to us versus us having to go out and sell, which is a good place to be, but how to make it as effective as possible. We found out that we've moved from a more voices, more noise type of marketing scenario to we're moving more into an educational scenario, because as artists are hopping on, we're finding out that we have to provide a lot of education just to fundamentally make them successful. By making them successful, they make the whole group successful. That's it in a nutshell. I could go on and on and on. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I will be hanging out at these events. I don't know how effective I can be, as a pitch person, but that's just kind of my status here in Dubuque, Iowa.
Thank
You
you.
you might think at some point of, through your whole area, do you have a pitch event, and could the artists pitch, and would it raise visibility? You've got a community. Once you have a community, a defined community, is there room for a pitch event in it to meet whatever goals you're interested in? It could just be raising visibility. It could be getting more funding into the arts. It could be lots of things, but it's a thought.
Sure. Thank you.
Henry, can I ask a clarifying question, Julian? I know we're really close to then. Henry, so when you're talking about working with the artists, are you talking about like helping them kind of get some like business savvy so that they feel like they can market their art? And okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was hearing, but
it's down to business savvy. We're actually to the point where when they come on board now, we have a Zoom orientation. We have a once a week, every Tuesday at noon, Zoom open door day where they can come in and just speak, question, guidance, things along that nature. And then we do once a month, we do a Zoom where we pick a topic to help educate them, to make them more effective. Ultimately, this whole thing is to instill collaborations where you have a couple little towns, what have you. Those artists can connect together, create their own individual loop inside our map, how to guerrilla market that. It's really, being artists, you're always trying to figure out a way to push it at the walls. So it's teaching them how to do that, be effective, have attitude, have, that kind of a vibe, that kind of present that kind of a feel, and then ultimately everybody rises together.
Of interest maybe to everybody on the call. So in addition to getting a guide for Pitchfork, we also were able to produce a guide for our 7-week business lab, which also ends in a pitch event. And I think in October, we're going to be doing a roundtable on that. But that's another free resource out there and another really powerful program. What
was that name again?
It's called Business Lab. And
okay.
We're thinking it'll be the October roundtable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Patrick, I was thinking of mentioning that to you because that might work for where you're at.
So something else that's been honed, actually, we first started running it in 2004. So that is really common. It really focused on rural businesses and what they need, but it's had pretty good results.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. And I did watch your session, Henry. It was great.
Thanks.
Your Radically Rural session for the arts and culture track.
Awesome.
Well, it was wonderful to meet everyone. Thanks for being here, and I will send some follow-up information, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you next month at our Rural Story Hour open mic.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.